G'day and welcome to the TheJadeRat. Thank you so much for tuning in. There's a little bit of lag going in here with the camera and the audio, but hopefully I should fix that up by the time we get this out to you. So January has happened. Happy New Year to all of you. Happy Lunar New Year for those who celebrate. And today I thought I'd just catch you up on what we're doing, and yeah, this was my January, bit different. First and foremost, I'll go over the stuff that I have read, not much admittedly. We have finished One Piece Volume 8. I can get that closer for you. One Piece Volume 8, really good, had lots of fun with it. And finally, we've also finished The Return of the King. You can see the cracked spines there for The Lord of the Rings, but with The Hobbit I managed to avoid reading it with this copy, so it's nice and pristine so far. Anything could happen. What else? So we've been making a lot of things, doing some cards, doing some tags, which you'll see in the video as we go in, and also just random bits and bobs of stuff. This is the holiday period is a time generally where everybody's at home. It's too hot to do like anything crazy, and you know, it's the school holidays are happening, everybody's on leave from work, and it's a great time to create things, which is what I attempted to do for the holiday period of 2021 to 2022. So yeah, we've got tags, we've got some gouache paintings, we've got some sketching, a little bit of snowy, and yeah, that's it. As always, thank all of you for watching. I am planning on doing some like a House on Fire short story breakdowns, because I do know that is a text that is used in the Victorian Certificate of Education's English subject, and it is one that I have read before, so I would like to do a deep dive, maybe help someone out. And also, yeah, a couple of painting things, a couple of projects coming up. You can see my scraps over here. They're looking real raggedy, but we are getting around to using them all. And finally, there is some stickers. Let me see if I can have an example for you. So there are some stickers. This one looks raggedy because it was stuck onto the packaging that the printers sent it in. So it's like their sample one, and I really liked it, and I printed it off. I ripped around the edges, and I wanted to stick it in somewhere. But this is the wizard staff, inspired by Lord of the Rings, of course, that we did for the first prompt of Inktober. So if you would like to get this sticker, do check it out in my shop. It is there, and it's, yeah, hopefully I'm gonna get some more stickers slowly, largely because I am limited by digital equipment, so drawing equipment. Like I don't have a tablet or anything, so it makes editing the scanned drawings digitally a little bit harder to do because I have to do it with my mouse. So getting a sticker to the level where it can either be sent off to the printers or where I can print it myself and manually cut around it, it takes a while, but I am getting some ideas. I've got some medieval style stickers, and yeah, I think I'll stop waffling now and I'll let you guys enjoy. Please let me know if you enjoy this kind of thing. If it is boring, also tell me, because like sometimes I like to see these kind of catch-up monthly update videos, and I like to do it as a thing in the background, but we shall see. Anyway, I'll let you watch the video. January started off with a bang. We've got a 12-piece ink set by Art Spectrum. The colours are white, black, so Art Spectrum Artist Pigmented Ink, in sepia, turquoise, green, blue, violet, crimson, magenta, red, orange, and yellow. So these are light fast and water resistant, and there's also 3 water brushes that come along them. This was a Christmas present that I received from a family member, and it comes in this lovely wooden box with a latch. And yeah, doing the swatches was an interesting experience. Unlike other inks that I've used, they've got a really cool nozzle thing where you can pour out as much ink as you need, and it's not very messy at all. Some ink pots, they have like a pipette or something, but yeah, this, and you'll see it as I open there's like a hole, and it's almost like a squeezy bottle type. Now, I made the mistake of doing the swatch on some black, I think it's marker of some sort, or fine liner, but that fine liner itself was not water resistant, so it activated. As you can see there's some smudging, but the actual ink itself is quite nice. Flows very well. You can see it there as the black is being diluted. It really just shoots across the water and blooms out really nicely, and the white is sitting on top of that marker strip, and it's almost opaque, fully opaque. So there's quite a lot of pigment in the inks themselves. Yeah, and they flow very well, and there's a really good range of values that you can get from like the fully saturated ink itself to a paler hue of that same colour. Particularly, you can see that the magenta, reds, purples, they have this really nice gradient. Even the turquoise, you can see that the lighter areas can be used, and if you water it down you can get quite a lot of colours out of essentially just 12 inks. There, the white again, you can see as it's dried that bead has kind of settled. There's like this translucent sheen on it, almost plasticky but not quite, and you can definitely tell that it's a solid bit of ink has dried there. Yeah, that was the swatches. So I am planning on doing some ink drawings. I've got some ideas coming up. But we'll see how they go. Now we've got some, I believe this is, I'm making a card here. And this card, most likely birthday, they're the most common type of card that I make. I used to sell cards at a clinic. Like, they would just sit near the reception and people would just put in, $2 or something. And I noticed that quite often birthday cards were the card that people really wanted, and so I made a lot of birthday or generic enough to be birthday cards. And yeah, recently in this January month during the holidays, I had a lot of time to go through card making tutorials, Pinterest for endless inspiration, and also Skillshare, which I am a member of, and I had this wonderful video where fussy cutting, so going around the outlines of the pattern paper, was one of the things, and then like clumping them together to have like a decorative focal point. That was the class, and I generally tend to avoid fussy cutting papers because I found it quite difficult to do, especially with scissors. So this time around I actually ended up using a cutting mat and a craft knife and working through like the contours that way, very slowly, a little bit jagged at the start, and then slowly getting better. And you can see them there. There's a whole bunch of sort of floral clusters, focal points. The paper is kind of vintage themed, some butterflies. And one thing I noticed a lot in the videos that I saw for card making was letting the paper kind of do the work for you, do all the heavy lifting, which is what I tried to do, especially like that one, that happy birthday cluster that you see there, and some envelopes as well, also from a YouTube video. Yeah, and it sort of as a way to get rid of a lot of the extra papers that I had hoarded, and some Mother's Day ones as well. I like that one too. It's quite a simple design when you have a pattern background and you can just put your sentiment over the top. You don't have to do any crazy decorations, and you can just accent it a little bit, but you don't have to work too hard for it. And another way that I used up quite a lot of my extra lying around paper was by making these gift tags, and they are using a heavier card or paper base. In this case it was a box of hair dye, like it was the box itself, and then I would use that to essentially wrap it around. You'll see it there. I'll put it on the edge of my paper and then essentially like fold it over so you can get at least one edge that is not exposed, because the paper will wrap it nicely. I did think about leaving this in like real time, but it's quite a tedious process when you watch it. Like, doing it's okay, but when you watch someone else do it, it's not as interesting. and then sealing the edges, making sure that they sit nicely and the corners are kind of even and not super unbalanced. Punching a hole. This hole punch got like lost somewhere and it took me ages to find, and yeah, it's one of those things that just kind of, if you don't look after it, it just disappears, and then you have to turn your whole area upside down to find it. But I did find it, which is very helpful. And then I would just put in some scrap like plain paper and then stamp in the to and from, and that's how many I made, a whole heap of them. And I put some twine, so I believe it's a jute twine that's got either silver or gold depending on what colour. They've got a little bit of like silver accent, roughly 12 inches to 28, 30 centimeters. Yeah, and then just applying the cord. These are also available in my shop as a lucky dip if you would like tea break. And after a cup of tea, we're on to our next thing for the year, well, so far, which is gouache. Gouache. I don't know. It's such an odd word. There's like 3 vowels in a row. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. And I always say we, as if it's like myself and multiple other people. Myself. But yeah, gouache was fun. It didn't start off fun. I was kind of a little bit like, I forgot how everything happens, and I started treating it like watercolors essentially. So very, very thin, washy kind of blocking in. But I think as we go forward, I did start making in thicker washes, getting bolder strokes, and also realizing that you can sort of activate the paint underneath, so we can get a smoother blend essentially just by activating it as we go. This piece is actually a fan art piece, which is sort of my go-to when I don't know what to do. My technique is to go onto pexels.com, which is a sort of stock photo video website, free for commercial use kind of thing, and just scroll through like the random stock photos that they have and find one that looks good, one that I think I can paint, like have enough confidence to sort of attempt, one that's got some nice clear shadows that are easier to follow. It's always a bit easier when the shadows are a little bit more defined, because you can sort of block in that darker shapes from the get-go, and it stops your painting from kind of looking weird. So yeah, I found a stock photo. It was like of a lady that was sort of sitting with her arm rested in that position on a red color couch. And then what I do is I get a stock photo that I find suitable, and then I overlay the thing that I would like fan art over the top of it. So in this case, rather than drawing the exact features of the person in the stock image itself, I would use features of the character. In this case, it's Boa Hancock from One Piece, and she's like typically got snake earrings, that haircut, the princess haircut, where it like stops around her face, ruffled clothes, ruffled sleeves, ruffled collar, and then I would add those features in on top of that stock image. So even if the stock image doesn't have it or isn't wearing clothes like that, I would just, you know, abstract away from that reference. And yes, things like the earrings, for example, I just kind of whacked them in. The reference didn't have like visible ears or any earrings that we could see, so yeah, just block in that gold color shape first, and then you can carve it out later as you go. And every now and then, on rare occasions, previously she used to come up a lot. Now she's like, can't be bothered. We've got my good friend Snowy. She's a long-billed Corella, and she is awesome. She previously had quite a big feather. It's not plucking, she would just bite it off. Like, it would just be almost as if someone came in with scissors and just cut it. She would bite it off herself, and yeah, and now you can see it's growing back, and she's very cute. She loves scratches. And what better reference, I guess, for a quick sketch done in the brush ink pen. I wonder if I've got it lying around somewhere. I do. This is by The Paper Mill in the colour Black Rock. And it's essentially like a water brush, but that's pre-filled with ink. This ink is not waterproof. It's quite cheap. I think I got it from a art and craft store called Riot Art and Craft, and it would have been only a couple of dollars. If you grab them on sale, they're very cheap. Every now and then I would like to do these sort of sketches too. Often I sort of speed things up, you know, with the cards and the tags. I did speed it up, but here this is sort of the speed typically that I would go at. And it's also better because you have someone to look at. Like, drawing is easier, I guess, in some cases. But also if you have an animal or a bird or something like Snowy, yeah, it's often hard to get them to look in the direction that you want them to look. A couple of times I had to ask Snowy to turn around because she got distracted and was looking out the other way. With sketching, I'm not particularly good at using brush pens. There seems to be a set of skills involved with controlling that line with variation, and if it's got ink inside the barrel like this particular one has, there is a sort of balance between squeezing out too much ink and getting the lines looking neat and tidy. There was a few times where I started running out and hadn't squeezed it in a while, and you get this dry brush effect, which is good sometimes, but for the situation where you want nice clean outlines, especially on a slightly textured paper, there is some gaps in the paper or in the ink where you you haven't actually covered the surface of the paper fully. And yeah, I don't know, I would like to get better at it. I think it's a good point of practice, because you get to do these drawings and you can do them quite quickly. You don't need to wait for anything to dry, you don't need to really prime the canvas. You can just do these sketches and work through them. Now I think we've sped it up a little bit because Snowy's feathers are quite soft and very fluffy, and they do take a while to draw in. She didn't turn out quite as well as I would have liked, but I guess that's the thing about drawing using a permanent medium from the get-go, so no pencil sketchings and things like that, where you just kind of have to go for it and hope for the best, and yeah, have confidence in the lines that you're making and try to capture the shapes as well as you can. I particularly like drawing in the sort of floof and chop area, which is that cheek fluff that sort of sits on the edges of the beak, on either sides. And sometimes when Snowy's particularly cozy, she activates the floof and chops and looks very rotund, and yeah, it's nice to see. There you can see near the wing area, I started running out of ink. Like, I had it on the drier side, and yeah, it would kind of give off something fuzzy, and then you have to remind yourself to, you know, apply pressure to that barrel, let out more ink, and create thicker lines. I like also how this drawing of Snowy kind of looks like a person wearing a bird like hat or mask. It started looking a bit uncanny once, you know, we started bringing out the shapes of the wings a little bit more. It was a little bit too much of the shoulder there, but yeah, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun drawing this, and you can see in the corner is Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, which I was reading in January, finished last week. Yeah, last week. And it was awesome. Return of the King is such a exciting experience. It's such a great finale to a wonderful story. And yeah, now we're moving on to, oh look, there's Frankie. So Frankie is my Indian ringneck. She is also incredibly cute, but she's not as keen on hands as Snowy is. Snowy will happily come in for a scratch, but Frankie's a little bit cautious still. And hopefully over time, as she gets more and more used to us, she will come a bit closer. She used to live outside with a male, Foggy, and they were enjoying the outside. But yeah, after Foggy unfortunately flew off, well, there's a scratch there, we brought Frankie inside because she was a little bit lonely, and so she could hang out with Snowy. Now back to that fussy cutting. So this is the process that I do for fussy cutting pattern paper, particularly if they have distinguishable chunks of pattern or design that can be outlined really well. So here there's these watercolor gemstones, and they have a lot of geometric shapes and straight lines, which makes it very easy to kind of trace around. I'm dropping things, moving cameras. There's always a cup of tea somehow. I've got one right now also in a Seattle mug. But yeah, so we just follow that geometric shape. You can do this with curved shapes, so circles and seahorses, windmills, anything you like, but you do have to slow down a little bit and really control the blade and understand, how much pressure to apply, when to ease off a little bit and rotate the page. And these set of fussy cuts in particular I've kind of stored away. Now we're getting into sports mode, so when the headband goes up, then you know that we're ready to do something exciting. Also in this January period, I was able to finally acquire some photo frames. So an 8x10 and actually it's not an 8x12. I think it's an 11x14. Large photo frames, 2 of them, to actually frame some art prints that I bought last year, many months ago, from an artist who also has a YouTube channel called Jenny Dolphin, and she makes a lot of Silmarillion and a couple of Star Wars based watercolor artworks. And they have this really nice sort of ethereal storybook kind of art style. So the kind of art style you would find in picture books from the 50s, and especially ones that with like fairy tales and things like that. It's kind of that sort of style. And they're actually located behind me. The 2 paintings that I got were one of the scene where Ulmo, the, deity or Vala of the ocean, lifting up Elwing, so Elrond's mum, and guiding her to heaven. And then the one that you see here that I'm currently framing is the Ride of the Rohirrim. So for those who are familiar with the story of Lord of the Rings, there are a group of warriors called the Rohirrim, and they operate using sort of like that muster system. So they have their own smaller cavalries scattered throughout the plains, the kingdom, and then at the call of the king, they kind of go around and pick up the cavalry as they go. And then finally they sort of convene at a location. So I think it was Helm's Deep or it was Edoras, one of the 2 places where they went off in their little divisions, collected all of the cavalry from each of the towns, each of the marshals, brought their groups, and then they rode together to Gondor to help the war, where Gondor was under siege. So yeah, Jenny Dolphin does these wonderful watercolor paintings of these scenes in the Silmarillion, scenes in Lord of the Rings. So there's the one with Ulmo, you can see there, lifting up the swan, which is, yeah, heading up to a castle not too far from Melbourne. And back to work, making some jewellery. So when I was young, when I was still in primary school, I actually started a hobby of jewellery making using beads. And I used to make and sell earrings and necklaces with like beads and wire. And I had a lot of those things still left over. And recently I've gotten into creating hair ornaments with them, using that wrapping technique where you get the bead and then you wrap the wire to make them look like branches. And I've been doing them in a couple of different color combinations, so using green wire with orange and green beads, gold wire with gold and red wire with gold, red and white beads, and then this one here is using green wire and pink and clear beads, sort of like cherry blossoms. And this one's kind of really dependent on the wire and the style that you want. It's if you use too firm of a wire, it's very hard to wrap by hand and you'll have to do it with pliers or something. But using a thin wire is pretty good. And it does become more rigid as you twist. It gets a bit stronger and you can move it to create the shapes and branches as you like. And then once I've created the individual branches, I sort of twist them together to make an arrangement that's sort of got two layers. It would have like an upper layer that's going far out and then some closer beads towards the center of the comb. And then I would wrap them either in ribbon or thread. So I would use a sewing needle and go through the branches and make sure everything is secure, and then finally I'll go back through them again with sequins or beads as necessary to make the base of the comb not look too wiry and rough. Also make sure to go through each of the teeth of the comb a few times just to make sure that there are no stray or loose wire pieces that can possibly get stuck in the hair as you remove it or something. It will catch or pull. So, you know, running a hand over the back of the comb, making sure that it's all smooth or flat so that there's no room for getting caught. You can see me fighting here with the thread. Sometimes the thread doesn't really wrap itself nicely. It gets caught in the branches of the hair comb. And this is one of those things, again, where you have a lot of surplus crafting materials. In this case, it's a lot of beads, and I would like to use them up. You know, often you buy beads in a set and then they have a style of jewellery or a type of project that it's suited to. Sometimes they don't really look the way you want it to, so you kind of mix and match the beads to make, for example, earrings or bracelet look more cohesive, and then you have this set of beads just lying around, essentially taking up space. And using leftover wire and leftover beads to kind of wrap around is a good way to use up those materials without just resorting to making earrings. Although I would like to make some earrings, again, to use up as much of that surplus beading material that I have left over. But that also begs the question of where and when to wear these earrings, and you know, can I wear 7 different sets of earrings in a day? You know, every like 2 hours, just like swap them out, or give them as gifts, something like that. I did also try to sell some earrings on Etsy. Another tea break? Or is it the same tea break? No, it's the same one. But yeah, that's it, and I hope you have a good one, and we'll catch up soon. See ya!